Welcome back to the channel, everyone. My name's Adam Melnyk, the Momentum Coach, helping you get unstuck. And today I'm going to teach you the 5 rules when it comes to dealing with people. Now, one of my clients was talking to me and he said, "Hey, Adam, why do you teach a lot about people skills? Why are you always teaching how to just manage people, how to interact with people, how to build rapport? Why are you trying to do this?" And I said to him, when you think about leadership, you have to understand where your power comes from. You see, as a leader, your power comes from your ability to get other people to act on your behalf, which means that if you cannot get other people to act on your behalf, I'm sorry to tell you this, you're not a leader. What are you? I don't know, but a leader, you are not, which means that first and foremost, you need to understand people. And there are really 5 basic rules to start you off that you need to understand and just embody if you want to be an effective leader or you just want to be liked and have people follow you in general. And the first rule is people love their own name, which means you do not screw it up. You do not make fun of somebody's name. You do not mispronounce somebody's name because honestly, that's how you piss somebody off. I remember one gentleman who intentionally, as opposed to calling me Adam, would call me Adam. And he thought it was funny. He thought it was hilarious. That pissed me off. It made me upset. And honestly, we didn't have a relationship after he continuously did this for like the first time I met him. It was annoying. And he's not the only person that has done this. I have watched time and time again, people just trying to be funny and intentionally mispronouncing somebody's name to get a laugh from the group. Do not do this. This is rude and disrespectful, and people hate it. However, if you go the extra mile and use their name in a sentence, people love it. Oh my God, do they love it. When you meet me and you say, "Hey, Adam, how's it going?" I love the sound of my own name. You're speaking to my subconscious and my subconscious says, "I like this person." If you use my name and I don't know your name, damn well, I'm going to remember your name. I'm going to go out of my way to learn your name, which is a trick if you want to go into a room and be that person that people learn about, recognize, and be like, "Hey, if there's one person I remember out of this entire group, it's that one person," is to use their name in a sentence. Like go up to somebody, learn what their name is, use their name, and subconsciously they're like, "Hey, I got to learn this person's name." It works 100% of the time. Trust me on that. And that's the thing. If you use somebody else's name in a sentence and they don't know yours, they often feel like there's this power imbalance. And so what they're going to try to do is they're going to try to learn your name because they want to make things feel equal, which is where we get into law number 2 or rule number 2, which is people want relationships. They want their interactions to feel equal. Whether the relationship, whether the interaction is equal is a whole different conversation. People want to feel like the interaction is equal. And what that means is that, for example, when I do relationship coaching, I'll often sit down with a couple and they'll say, "Oh, he's not pulling his weight. He doesn't love me. I feel like he is da 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 da." But when we get down to brass tacks, we write everything out, what the man's doing, what the woman's doing, it turns out the relationship truly is equal. It just doesn't feel equal, which begs the question of, okay, what is going on that makes you feel like the relationship is not equal? And it's the same thing when you're meeting somebody for the first time. If I am just asking you constantly questions about your life, what are you doing? Where do you go to work? What's your family like? Just grilling you, you feel like it's an interrogation. But if I start sprinkling little bits and pieces about my life, about what I'm doing, about the things that are happening in my life, all of a sudden it feels like a conversation because you feel like there's this equal balance of give and take. You are giving a part of yourself, and as a result, you are taking a part of me, whatever that might be. But the gist of it is people want to feel like the relationships are equal. When it comes to a work dynamic, when we look at management and employees, people want managers to treat their employees as equals. Like, for example, I shouldn't say as equals, They should treat them like as if they are all equal in their eyes. They don't want to see favoritism when it comes to a certain employee above another employee. And so they get very upset and frustrated when they watch a manager talking to one employee, continuously building up a relationship with that one employee. And then they feel like there's favoritism going on in the work environment. They get disgruntled, they get upset, they start lashing out, and then nothing good happens from that, which is why as a manager, you have to strive to make the work environment feel equal, like everybody is equal in your eyes. Whether they are or not, again, is a whole different conversation that we can have. But what people truly want is to feel like the work environment is equal. People crave that equality, which leads us into rule number 3, which is people do not believe themselves to be evil or doing the wrong thing. Like, generally speaking, it is incredibly rare that people look at themselves and say, yeah, I'm an evil person. Yeah, I'm a screw up. I'm screwing this up. Like, it's exceptionally rare. The average person does not see themselves as evil. They do not see themselves as doing the wrong thing. And in fact, if somebody's screwing up and you call them out on it, they will often double down on their screw up. We call it the backfire effect, which is the opposite of what you wanted ends up happening. I remember a friend talking to a flat earther, and this flat earther was in a group. And my friend said, how can you possibly believe that the earth is flat? Are you dumb? Are you stupid? Let me prove you wrong. And he ends up pulling up facts and information and video about how the earth is round. And he's publicly humiliating this man to his group. But of course, this person can't prove themselves to be wrong. Like, they generally don't think of themselves as wrong. And so what they do, instead of saying, hey, you're right, I am being pretty dumb here, the earth isn't flat, it's in fact round, they end up doubling down on this idea that the earth is indeed flat. And they entrench themselves further in the belief, which ends up upsetting my friend because he's sitting there going, I'm trying to prove to you that you're wrong. I'm trying to get you to my way of thinking. And instead, I've ended up building brick walls, which is why when somebody is wrong, when somebody is screwing up, you cannot just call them out. You kind of have to take this softer approach to it. And for example, if you're at a party or a dinner party and somebody is sprouting something that is just generally wrong, you don't say, hey, you're wrong, you're being dumb. You say, I always thought it was da 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 da. And if the other person wants to just double down on it, they absolutely can. However, sometimes they may admit, hey, I'm wrong. It gives them more of that opportunity or way out of the conversation to be like, yeah, some people did say that, or some people did learn it that way, as opposed to getting very confrontational. Because again, when you confront somebody when they're doing something wrong, they often end up doubling down. And that's generally something that we don't want to do. And we also see this, for example, in the workplace. Oftentimes when somebody's gossiping or doing something improper or wrong, if you just come at them, they'll often just double down. For example, I remember working with one girl who was gossiping in the workplace and honestly destroying employees' reputations and livelihoods. And in talking with her about gossiping and really coming after her, she ended up doubling down and saying, it's my job to talk to my employees to teach them about who is safe and who isn't safe. And you're sitting there going, oh, you don't really understand that. 1, you're destroying people's lives. 2, what you're doing is wrong. And 3, you're just going to double down on this, which means that in order to help her understand that the gossip that she is spreading within the workplace is actually toxic and not healthy, I had to come at her with a much softer approach and talk to her and be like, hey, what's going on here? Let me understand this situation and let's see how we can rectify it, which comes into point number 3, which is people want to be understood. You see, you want to be understood. I want to be understood. This is a fact of humans. When we're in friendships, we want our friends to understand us and we want to understand our friends. One of the biggest mistakes that I see in leadership or just in life in general is when somebody's having a problem or issue or conflict, people are just running in to fix things when that's not what you should be doing. Because people want to be understood, the first thing you have to do is just sit down and listen to them. For example, I remember one gentleman, he was having a really hard time at work. Things just weren't going well. They were having all these conflict issues with their team and things were not working. And one manager, as opposed to just jumping in and fixing the situation, sat down and listened. They listened to the individual, what was going on in their life, what was happening, what was making things hard. And the manager didn't do anything. He didn't fix anything. And by the end of the conversation, the guy's like, oh, thank you so much for this help. This was amazing. And the guy's like, I didn't do anything. It's like, well, what you did was you helped him understand that he is being understood. And that's really what people want, which is why we always naturally gravitate to individuals that will shine the spotlight on us, that will ask curious questions and seek just to understand who we are in general. In dating, when somebody is sitting down across the table and we're getting to know them, we want them to understand us. And if we feel like they don't understand us, there's no connection. There's no click. People want to be understood at a fundamental level in order for the relationships to move forward on any degree. Which leads us into our last point, point number 5. People inherently are narcissistic creatures. You are a narcissistic creature. I'm a narcissistic creature. And I'm going to be honest with you. I totally get it. I understand why you are, because let's be honest, you are the main character of your story. Me, I'm just supporting cast. But in my story, I'm the main character and you're supporting cast. That's how it is. And because we are the main characters of our own story, we love talking about ourselves. We love discussing ourselves, our thoughts, our feelings, what we want to do, our dreams, our hopes, our aspirations. And this is something you have to understand, because one of the biggest mistakes I see people make is that they just talk about themselves because, again, they're the main character of their story, but the other person doesn't care. I don't care about your story because my story is more interesting to me, just like your story is interesting to you, which means that if you want me to like you, talk about me, learn my story. It comes back to point number 4. People want to be understood. Shine the spotlight on the other person. Seek to understand them. Create that balance in the conversation where you can share a part of your story, but look to understand their story. People love to talk about themselves. Like if you give them a platform to talk, they will talk for hours. And that's because sadly, most people don't have an outlet just to talk about themselves. Think about your day. How many times have you had the opportunity to talk about your own thoughts, feelings, aspirations, and dreams with somebody? The answer is probably 0. And this is normal. Most of us do not have a platform to talk about ourselves. And so when we oftentimes get it, we almost monologue. This is actually one of the biggest problems I see in dating, is that the other person's showing that curiosity and be like, hey, let's talk about you. And the other person's like, yeah, I really want to talk about myself. And so then they just talk and talk and talk, and it becomes this massive monologue. And then the other person checks completely out, which we generally don't want to do. But I also see this in the workplace, where what will end up happening is somebody will start talking to management or leadership, and the leader's like, hey, I'm going to use this as a platform to talk about myself. And then they just monologue about themselves for hours. And I just watch their team just glaze over. It's really rough. I'm going to be honest with you. So that's why, for example, if you want somebody to be expressing an interest in you, or you want them to like you, as opposed to talking about yourself, give them the stage, give them the spotlight, uplift and show them how amazing they are to themselves, and seek to just understand how great they are as human beings. If you can embody these 5 simple rules, I can promise you, people will naturally just like you. They may not even understand why they like you, but they will just naturally like you and start gravitating towards you. And it'll be a great first step, if you're not in leadership already, to becoming that leader. Because again, if somebody likes you, they're more willing to act on your behalf, which means that, guess what? You have power, which is huge. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and send it to somebody else who could use this information. And if you're feeling stuck, please reach out to me at themomentumcoach.ca and let's see where you're stuck either at work or your personal life and see where we can start moving you forward. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next episode. Take care.